Okay, welcome back, the genius. So the last session we did an introduction to arrays, letting you know what arrays are. And in this session, let's just take a look at some basic methods. Okay, we are not going to cover all of them. We are just going to talk about the basic four. Then in other sessions, we'll talk about the remaining ones. We categorize them so that we can actually talk about them so that in a way that you can understand and know how to use these methods. So in this session, we'll talk about four different methods. The first one is the push method. Okay, so the push method is what we use to add an element to the end of the array. Remember in the last session, we talked about you can modify arrays. All right. You can modify arrays, you can add items, elements into the array by using the index method. All right. But you can also use the push method. But let me just recap and show you exactly what I mean. So now, look at this array that we have here. Okay. We have this array. Okay, so we have this array, and I have these are the list of my friends. So if I want to add another person, okay, I could just say array of five, the fifth index, because I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last one is on the fourth index, but I want to add at the end of it. So if I want to add at the end of it, I will now say index 5. And when I do that, let's say I met a new friend and his name is John Doe. Okay, so with this now, I can add. I'm adding it to the end of it because I know the index. But what if I don't know the index? So let me just show you. There's no need to go with this. I will just have to, after adding that, I will just have to print. I just have to print the friends, the array. So before this line of code, all right, we didn't have John Doe in our friends list. But this is another way I can modify. And when I modify, I can add, okay? I can add at the end of it because I know the index. So if I run this thing now, of course, I'm going to get John Doe added to our new list. So we have John Doe. But what if I do not know the index? I don't know how many items that are in this array. What do I do? That is where the push method comes in. Most of the times when you want to add elements, okay, to your array, you'll be using the push method. So let's go back to the slide. Now the push method in JavaScript is used to add one or more elements to the end of an array. So whatever you use the push method to add is going to add it to the end. All right, to the end, not at the beginning. It will add it to the end. So, and once you do that, it will not, this method will return the new length. Okay, so now this is the syntax. The name of the array dot push. Then this expects one or more items. Okay, so if I just add one that item will be added at the end. But if I provide multiple values separated by commas, those values will be added at the end, and then it would return. So this function returns the length of the array. So after pushing in, all right, it returns the length of the array. So if in case you want to work with the length, you can actually work with it. Okay, so this is an example. All right, we have this array apple that has apple and banana, and we are pushing in. Okay, you can see we are now saying fruits dot push, and we are adding new orange and new mango to it, and the new length will be stored, will be returned. So when you look at it now, when you console the fruit, this has been added, and the new length is this. So let's go back to code and see. Let us do our own from what we already have. Okay, so I can take this guy off. So instead of doing this, um, I could just say const, because this push method returns the new length. I will say new length. Okay, I will say new length is equal to the name of my array is friends. Friends dot push. Okay, so I met new friends, so I can just add John Doe. Okay, I could just add John Doe to it. Then if I have more than one friend to add, I could add. But look at it. If I go on now and run this code, we are going to get, I want to console.log the array, and also want to console.log the new length. So when we run this now, we are going to get the array and also the new length of the array. So you can see now, it used to be 5 before. Before I have 5 friends in my list. But right now they are now 6 because I added a new one. Okay, so look at the John Doe has been added to the end of it, and the new length is 6. So what if I met more than one friend new? I met more than one friend. So I could just add as many as I can. Larry Gaga. Okay, I can add as many I can. Do you understand? So if I run this code now, it's going to be 7. The length is going to be 7, and Larry Gaga John Doe and Larry Gaga has been added. Okay, so that is it. So the push method adds anything you give to it to the end of the array and returns the new length. So in case you would want to work with maybe the new length that was returned, you can actually, but if you don't need it, no problem. You don't even need to call this. In case you're not interested in the length, you don't need to do this. So you don't need to, you can just call the method and it runs. Okay, so let us take some key points from here. Okay, so there are a few things I would want you to know. This push method modifies the original array in place. It changes it. It mutates it. Okay, so this array is no longer, you can see now, we used to have 5 people in our array, and the new one is now 6 or 7, depending on how many items you added. It mutates it, it modifies it. It returns the new length. Of course, we already know this. And it can add multiple items, elements at the same time. I have already told you that, okay? So that is it for the push method. But we can just go in, let us dig in more. So there is one thing I always try to do. Look at it. When we do this, okay, this is a documentation of this method. You can see that this method, this is what we call spread operator. Okay, so anything that comes in here, okay, anything that comes in here, comma separated, is seen as an array. So what we have here is this, because our best friend, our friends, is a type of string, so that is why it's giving us, but it's returning a number, a number data type. So new elements to add to the array, that is it means the items here. So that's the parameter the argument is expecting from us. So it appends new elements to the end of the array and returns the new length of the array. Okay, so that's how the push method works. Okay, so that's more about the push method. So if you want to add an array, if you want to add an element to the end of the array, you use the push method. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go forward to the pop method. Now, the pop method is used to remove the last element. If you want to remove the last element, you use the pop method. And the pop method, okay, it is used to remove the last element from an array and returns the removed element. So that element that was removed, this pop method will return it. So in case you want to work with it, you can actually save it, store it in a variable. Okay? So this is how it is being used. You have an array already, then you now say fruit.pop. Okay, it returns the removed item. Okay, if you don't need to have, if you're not using the removed item for anything, there is no need. You don't need to save it here. Okay, but if you need it, guys, you can go on with this. So you can see the apple here, we have removed the orange. Since we have removed the orange, we no longer have it in this array again. So let's say let's say this my friend Austin got me angry, and I no longer want to invite him to my party. So what I will do is this. Okay, I will just say pop, because Austin is the last person in the list. Okay, I will just say pop. But what if, I know you might be asking the question, what if I want to remove this guy at a particular index? We will come to that. Do you understand? We will come to that. You can actually remove at a particular index. So dot. So when other methods we are going to be talking about, we'll talk about how you can remove at a particular index. There are a couple of ways you can actually do this. Okay, So, but we are going to talk about that in later sessions. Okay. So, but for now, if you want to remove the item at the end, you use the pop method. So if I run this pop method now, Austin will no longer be printed out here. So look at it. It's no longer going to be in the list, in the array. You can see Austin is no longer here. Instead of 5, we now have 4. Okay. So anytime you pop, you're removing the last item. If I run again, if I run this code again, I will be removing the first one will be removed as Austin, the second one will be removed for Occam. So if I run this now, you can see we will no longer have Occam. All right. So now, in case you want to save it, I can just call it Austin. Okay. And this one, I'll call it Occam. Okay. But this is because this array is very small. So I know their indices. So that is why I can work with this. So if I go on and say console.log this and this, and this would be the Austin that I got, and this one is okay, the one I got. So if I run this now, I'm able to pop the 2. First of all, Austin will be popped, removed from the last index. So once we call this method, all right. Okay, let me show you something. Let me debug. Okay, I'll take this guy out. Let me bring it here. Okay, so I will start debugging. I want to show you something. So look at it. The moment we are here, all right, our friends will still have everything intact. But the moment we pass, don't worry, I'm still going to teach you debugging, how to debug, all right? In case you don't understand what I'm doing, don't worry, we'll teach you. We have this chapter, debugging JavaScript code, okay? So now, I just want to follow line by line and see what is happening. So in this line that we have gotten here, our application has stopped running here. So if I go to next, no, this is step into step out. Okay, I will do. When I click on step over here, all right, now this method has been called and our friends no longer have, you can see when I take my mouse over it, it no longer has Austin because Austin has been removed. And if you come back here, you can see this is the variable here, the array. We no longer have Austin. So if I go over to the next code and step over, once this guy has been called, this one has been called too, you can see we no longer have, our friends has been reduced to 3. We no longer have Occam. So that's what I just want to show you, okay? So I can stop debugging. All right, so that's exactly what I want to show you, okay? So now a couple of things we need to know about the pop method. It also mutates the original array by removing the last element. You can see whenever we called it, the array was no longer the same as it used to be before we called that method. Okay, so it also returns the removed element. If the array is empty, it will return undefined. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at it. So I have this empty array, and I'm going to call, I will just say return value. Okay, and I'm going to call this pop method on an empty array. So empty dot pop. It will return undefined because there was nothing to remove. All right, there's nothing to remove. And if I go ahead and console this thing, the return value, okay, if I go ahead and run it, it will return undefined because we are calling pop on an empty array. Okay, so you can see undefined was returned. So that is key points. So the next thing we'll talk about is the shift method. The shift method is the same, does the same thing almost like the push method. But the difference is that the shift method has, I'm sorry, that's on shift, sorry. Shift and pop, they look alike. They all remove elements from an array. But the difference is where exactly do they remove these elements? The pop method removes element from the ending of the array. It removes the last element. That's from the ending of the array, from the end of the array. But the shift method removes from the beginning of the array. That means it removes the first element. So if you want to remove the first element, you use the shift method. If you want to remove the last element, you use the pop method. So these are basically the difference. So there is nothing much. They are just the same thing. They return the removed element, okay? But it shifts all remaining elements to a lower index. So what it does is this, okay? Look at it. Apple, banana, orange. Apple index is 0, banana is 1, orange is 2. So when we call this fruit.shift method, apple will be removed. So when apple is removed, banana will now occupy the 0 index position. Because apple has been removed, the whole array would be rearranged. So banana will go down to 0, orange will go down to 1. That's what we mean here. It says it shifts all remaining elements to a lower index. Okay? So just the same thing with the pop method, but this time around, the only difference is where at what location do they perform their operation. So before we go to key points, let's take a look at it. I'm no longer using pop. Um, I want to use shift. But this shift, I'll be calling it on friends. All right. So when we called friends.pop, we were getting Austin because that's the last element. But this time around, when we do this, um, we are going to get Patrick because Patrick is the first element. So that's what the shift method does. So when we also console.log these friends, we are going to see what we get. You see, we got this shift method remove the first element and returns it. So we got the Patrick that was returned. Then if you look at the new array now, Patrick is no longer here. Okay, so basically the same thing with the other one. So points to note, it modifies the original array by removing the first element. It returns the removed element. If the array is empty, it also returns undefined. So, but the difference here is between pop and shift is that shift removes the first element, while pop removes the last element. So unlike pop, which removes from the end, shift removes from the beginning. Okay, so I want you to know when and how to use these methods. All right. So the unshift method, just like push will add elements at the end of the elements, but on shift would add at the beginning. Okay, it is very simple. It would also take multiple elements in case you give it multiple elements. So it adds one or more elements to the beginning of an array and it returns the new length of that array. So this is the same way you'd say array.push. All right, that's the same way you say array.onShift. But this time around, where they perform the operation is the difference. Shift has these elements at the beginning, while push has at the end of these arrays. Okay, so basically the same thing that we have seen, and it will also return the new length. It returns the new length. Okay, key points to note here is that it modifies the original array by adding elements at the beginning, returns the new length of the array, and it can add multiple elements just like the push method can also do. So, but unlike the push, which has elements at the end, the unshift has element at the beginning. So that is it. So I believe this is very simple to understand. We are able to break it down. But in case you find anything confusing, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. All right. Your instructor, you have their contact, chat them on WhatsApp, ask your question, reach out to us so that we can explain better. Okay. Thank you very much, and this is what we call it today. So in the next session, we'll be talking about different types of methods, okay, that you also find in arrays. So by the end of this chapter, you'll be very good at working with arrays, okay? So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next session.